Do not go to the garden of flowers. Oh friend, go not there. In your body is the garden of flowers. Take your seat on the 1,000 petals of the lotus. And there, gaze on the infinite beauty. It's not often that I cover such short poems on this channel, but there are a few that really speaks volumes. This deep poem by Kabir is definitely one of them. So simple in its use of language, yet so powerful in how it makes you feel. Kabir starts with a wonderful warning. Do not go to the garden of flowers. He then continues this caution in the second line, imploring us to not go out there, to not go outside the frame of our body. But what is he really talking about when he says the garden of flowers? And why is it so bad for us to go there? To really understand and appreciate the meaning of this analogy, one must first understand the context in which it is used. Kabir was a 15th century Indian mystic and poet that was influenced by a variety of spiritual and philosophical traditions that were common during his time. One of these traditions was undoubtedly Sufism, or the mystical branch of Islam that emphasizes having a direct experience of God and also purifying the soul. In fact, many of Kabir's poems include references to Sufi teachings and practices. In Sufism, the garden is a very common metaphor, representing the human soul, and more importantly, its journey towards union with the divine. Similar to an actual garden, our soul needs to be cultivated and tended to in order to bloom with the love of God. We need to give time to spiritual practice and devotion. We need to give time to purify ourselves. If we don't, our soul will simply not grow. For example, if you don't water the roses, prune the dead leaves, and fertilize the soil, your garden will not be beautiful at all. Unfortunately, this is the state of countless souls living in this world, dead, depressing, and devoid of life. But thankfully, we all have the potential to grow the most beautiful garden. We all have the potential to grow the most beautiful soul that can reach up to the heavens and finally reunite with God. This analogy of the garden is not something new that Kabir introduced. In fact, several famous Sufi poets before him have been known to use this analogy in their poems, including Rumi, Hafiz, Sadi, and Attar. So, to return back to Kabir's poem, he is referring to the beautiful, mystical experience of our soul reuniting with God and experiencing divine oneness. This is what we are all truly after. And Kabir wisely says that this union cannot be found anywhere in the world. It can't be found anywhere outside us. It can't be found in the different institutions or philosophies that we create. It can't be found in other people that we might admire or follow. It exists solely within our body, within our being. Those flowers out there in the garden will all wither and die. But the flowers in our spiritual garden live on for eternity. So we should all take a moment to thank Kabir, because he is saving us so much time and headache in trying to figure out the answer ourselves. The answer is no further than inside your very own soul. Your mind and ego may tempt you to search all four corners of the world to find the truth you have been seeking. But the strange irony is that you never have to take one step beyond your being. Take your seat, Kabir says, on the 1,000 petals of the lotus, and you will find the truth. There you will gaze on the infinite beauty. Now, it's no wonder that the infinite beauty Kabir talks about is God, Source, or consciousness. It is the infinite, unchanging, and all-encompassing beauty that underlies and permeates everything. And frankly, it's not something that you can really grasp with your mind. It can only be known through direct experience. In other words, you just can't think or imagine of reuniting with God. You have to experience it. You have to purify yourself so much that the individual self eventually dissolves and you become one with God. But what about this lotus Kabir talks about? This symbol is a little more complex to understand. Unlike the garden, which is a common symbol in Sufi poetry, the lotus is more prevalent in a lot of Hindu and Buddhist traditions. It can symbolize purity, because the lotus grows in muddy water but remains untouched by the impurities around it. Symbolically, this means that we can be surrounded by the impure influences of our mind or that of others, but we can ultimately rise above such influences. In addition, the lotus often symbolizes enlightenment. In Buddhism, it is a sensual symbol representing one's journey towards awakening. Similar to the theme of purity, the soul can rise above the suffering and ignorance of this world to one day attain spiritual enlightenment. Finally, the lotus can represent transcendence and detachment from our material and egoic desires, since again, it remains unaffected by the mud and water in which it grows. So you can see just this one symbol carries so much meaning. And now imagine yourself sitting on the 1,000 petals of the lotus. In other words, sit or melt yourself completely in this pure and peaceful presence. Rise above the ego, which is like the mud trying to stain the divinity that you are. You are not the mud, and you are never the mud. You are not even the water. You are the pure and peaceful lotus that grows above the water. And when you can put all of these symbols and messages together, you can appreciate what an incredibly deep and beautiful poem this is. Even the simplicity and brevity of language is a symbol of nature. Nature is the simplest and most advanced presence in this world. There is a lot that we can learn from nature, and it's no surprise that many of Kabir's poems are all full of natural and mystical symbols. But I think the ultimate takeaway from this poem is that we all yearn to return to God. That is the ultimate goal of life. Now, some of us discover this earlier than others, but no matter when we eventually do, the question then becomes, well, how do I do it? We naturally gravitate toward books, teachers, and ideas, because that is what we have grown up used to. Thoughts. We have identified with our mind our entire lives. So naturally, we think that enlightenment or divine union can be accomplished through the mind as well. And so we reach with our mind to find this precious garden, not knowing that it has always lived inside us. This soul has always been a part of us. It's all about returning to this simplicity and purity, cultivating our spiritual garden, and gazing at the infinite beauty of God that appears before us in every moment of our existence. If we can do that, then we will have achieved what we came here in this world to do. So I hope you enjoyed this beautiful poem by Kabir and the incredible meaning conveyed through these words. It's a short poem, but it's a deep poem. If you love spiritual poetry like this and truly want to connect with God, please consider subscribing to this channel if you haven't already. You know, I try to put a video out every week, and believe me, it does take some time to make these videos. But every week, I try to put out either an important poem, a spiritual teaching, or a guided meditation that I believe might help this community. So let me know what you think of this poem, and please drop a like if you enjoyed this video. But for now, thank you as always for watching, and I hope to see you again on another one of these videos.